Hello, my name is Tim Ormsby, State Representative from the 3rd District in Spokane. Thanks for joining me for our weekly video update. And today we're shooting in the House Chamber viewing area. We call it the gallery. If you haven't visited the Capitol, I recommend it. If you saw last week's video update from my office here in the Legislative Building, we're trying to give folks at home different shots of the venues in and around the Capitol and the various places that we take care of the state's business. Folks from Spokane don't always get a chance to come over here to Olympia, so we're going to try and give you a shot at some of the scenes that we encounter on a day-to-day basis in the interest of bringing your state capitol closer to you as we're a distance away. Had you been here in the House Gallery, the area that looks over the chamber of the House of Representatives, you'd have seen some important legislative action occurring earlier this week. The first was an historical unemployment insurance legislation that increased the weekly benefit to unemployed workers by $45 per week. That's about $180 a month for the normal unemployed worker. It also took the lowest benefit amount, the lowest weekly amount, up from $130 to $155. Then you add on top of that the 45 weekly benefit bump that will occur for the entire year of 2009 up through December of 2009. That's $200 a work in a minimum benefit to our unemployed workers. And we're calling this money for Main Street because folks that get those unemployment compensation checks are spending that money where they live. It's economic stimulus, it's money for Main Street. These folks are using that money in the grocery stores to take care of their household budgets. They're not padding their stock portfolios, I can assure you. Also of note on the House floor earlier this week was the supplemental, we call it the supplemental spending bill. It wasn't really a spending bill, it was a belt tightening measure. We were trimming the costs for the rest of this biennium, which is a 2-year cycle, and it ends on June 30th of this year, 2009. And it's the equivalent of saving the taxpayer $125 million per month for the remainder of this fiscal year. And that meant some serious belt tightening, and while we were keeping a close eye on human services and the social safety net, there were cuts in those spending that we needed to make in order to have our state remain solvent. A third activity that is very near and dear to us and has a local connection was a measure that would spend $130 million in bonds to complete school construction projects throughout the state. And it was introduced and was the first bill passed by our neighbor in Spokane, new 6th District legislator John Driscoll. It provides to complete those construction projects that were begun earlier, and for us in Spokane it meant the extra monies for John Rogers High School, for Shadle Park, Ferris, Ridgeview Elementary, Lidgerwood, and Lincoln Heights Elementary, all within the 3rd District. It was an important spending measure that's going to provide some important stimulus for us in our area and provide good educational facilities for our students in Spokane Public Schools. In addition to that legislative action, we had a lot of committee work this week, and a couple of things that I've been working on that received committee hearings was an important stormwater measure. Well, stormwater isn't the most exciting thing, except that water that goes down the catch basin ends up untreated in our lakes, rivers, and aquifers, and it's important to keep those water bodies clean because we have an obligation under statute to have clean water, and it's also very important for our ecological habitat and for the assurance that we know we're doing our best to keep our water bodies healthy. Part of what happens when that stormwater goes in the catch basin and then into those water bodies untreated is it brings a lot of petroleum products in with it. And this is a measure to reduce the amount of petroleum and other toxic elements from entering our water bodies, thus preserving our ecological habitat, something that's very important to us and those of us that know and love the Spokane River. Also, provided a measure to get our arms around this concept of when construction projects like the ones I mentioned at our public schools, but all public works projects, those are the projects that are funded by government, that we take into account that when there is some prefabrication of materials that are going to be installed on those sites, that we learn who's installing them, where they are, because it is, after all, Washington State tax dollars that are paying for them. And when those prefabrication elements are conducted out of state, we're spending our state revenue in other places that don't benefit the state, and we need to find out when that's happening. I'd also like to remind you that next month, in the middle of March, we're scheduled to do a town hall meeting in Spokane. So I want you to keep your eyes open in the mailbox and in the newspaper for notifications coming out for a Saturday, March 14th town hall meeting. It'll be exciting to get back home and have conversations with our friends and neighbors back in Spokane as opposed to here in Olympia. In the meantime, I want you to keep an eye on your state government. I want you to contact us with any thoughts, concerns, or information you have that you think is important for us to know. And until next week, be safe, and I look forward to talking with you again soon.